Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Goldberg. I'll be the hearing officer for today's hearing, to tree removal hearing. I work at Public Works, assigned to the project management section of the ESSER bond program. So my job as a hearing officer is to hear the department's position and then any kind of protest or appeals, and then make a recommendation to the director or to the interim director. She reviews all the recommendations and then is free to accept, reject, or modify as she deems appropriate. So with that, we'll start. So I'd like to spell people's names correctly. If possible, if you just identify yourself, if you're representing an organization or simply yourself, and then spell your name so I can get it correct. With that, would the department like to start? I'll call item, well, let me start with this way. Item number 2 is public comment for any items that are not specifically on the agenda. Is there anyone that has any public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment and move on to the first item on the agenda. Hearing order 206-709 to consider the removal of 2 street trees with replacement of both adjacent to 1330 Baker Street. Staff has approved the removal and the public has protested. The department?
Good evening. My name is Brian Ong. I'm with San Francisco Public Works, and I am the Bureau of Urban Forestry representative. Can you guys see the SF Public Works logo in the tree removal hearing, June 27th, 2022?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so Public Works strategic plan. Our goal is to ensure safe, clean, and green infrastructure and public right-of-way. So Article 16 of the Urban Forestry Ordinance, BUF's mission is to preserve and grow the urban forest while balancing the safety and needs of a growing and evolving city. Removal permit required to remove street trees and significant trees. Also updated from the Article 16 Urban Forestry Ordinance in February 2022. If the department is removing a tree, a replacement is required within 120 days and tracked on a delayed replacement tree report. 2, if a tree cannot be planted in situ, then it must be replanted at a nearby location. And 3, if a property owner applicant is granted a removal permit, the department shall require a replacement tree of equivalent value to the one removed or impose an in lieu fee. So Street Tree SF, basically San Francisco has taken over responsibility of all the street trees in the public right of way. And to our first item, Public Works Order number 206-709 for 1330 Baker Street is to consider the removal of 2 street trees with replacement adjacent to 1330 Baker Street. The staff has approved the removal and the public has protested. So there's 2 trees here at 1322 and 1330 Baker Street. This is tree site 1. It's a blackwood acacia. Trees about 35 to 40 feet spread. You can see it's 30 to 40 feet. The condition is poor to fair. There's a wound at this root flare. You can kind of see I think there's a metal pole growing into the tree, and you can see this kind of rot kind of happening towards the center of the tree. It's a high trafficked area by the hospital on Geary Street. This does require sidewalk repair with a high likelihood of significantly destabilizing the tree, which will increase potential for total root failure. Basically, the tree root related sidewalk damage has increased the potential for trip and fall accidents at this site. Reports of trips have facilitated the need for repair action at this site. Tree species is known to be sensitive to root pruning and require work has high potential to significantly destabilize this tree. So in the past, we've seen blackwood acacias, after they've been pruned, they start to decay a little bit faster than other species. And also as sidewalk is being repaired, they do uh, start to rot towards the trunk of the tree, which, ultimately the tree will fail, and then increasing, and then doing the sidewalk repair will also increase the likelihood of that failure. Also, this is site number 2. The tree is approximately 30 feet tall, about 25 feet wide. The condition is poor. There's a severe lean, decay and pest activity on the main trunk in old wounds, and severe trunk damage. You can kind of see on the right-hand photo that the tree has been hit by cars in the past. In the previous photo over here to the left, this is that second tree that's leaning into the roadway. So you can see that that's the tree that's leaning, and of course the truck's right here. Any other car or truck is going to hit the trunk of the tree, as it goes by or tries to park. So this also requires sidewalk repair, and the likelihood is a high likelihood of significantly destabilizing the tree, which will increase potential for, again, total root failure. There's repeated vehicular damage that has caused wounds to the tree, which has been invaded by pests and likely fungal pathogens. Decay has deteriorated wood at the wound site. And then the tree root-related sidewalk damage has increased the potential for trip and fall accidents at this site. Reports of trips have facilitated the need to repair action at this site. And the tree species is known to be sensitive to root pruning, and required work has high potential to significantly destabilize the tree. And so this is basically Public Works. We got a service request from this, from a member of the public. And so we took a look at the tree and the damage to the sidewalk and determined that it needed to be removed. The sidewalk needed to be repaired, but in order to repair the sidewalk, the tree needs to be removed because it will destabilize the tree. So the inspecting arborist also noted that the tree root-related sidewalk damage is moderate to high risk due to frequent foot traffic and nature of the damage, the direct path of travel, uplift, and cracking. And the adjacent property owner informed inspecting arborists that they have witnessed tripped events at this locations. So just to summarize, tree number 1, the staff approved based on the condition of the tree: poor branch attachments, overextended branches, root girdling post. Additionally, required sidewalk repair has high potential to compromise the structural stability of tree roots. Acacias have a higher likelihood of failure following root pruning than other species. And then tree number 2 on the left-hand side, the staff approved based on condition of the tree. It's a severe lean, repeated trunk damage from vehicular damage, decay and pest activity in the large wound on the main trunk. And then again, this requires sidewalk repair and has the high potential to compromise the structural stability of the tree. And then 1 letter of protest was received. So to be consistent with how we deal with similar cases, the staff has approved the removal of both trees.
So Brian, this is with replacement. Can you speak to the replacements?
Yeah, so the tree, there will be replaced in the same, it looks like there might be enough room. If not, it looks like the first tree can be replanted, but the second one that's leaning can't be replanted, but we'll find a space nearby. It looks like a pretty wide sidewalk, and maybe either across the street or on the same block, we can find another location for that.
And do we have a size of tree or species?
I'm not exactly sure about the species. The size is usually a 15-gallon tree. That's what we normally plant. The smaller trees tend to do a little bit better than planting a larger size tree, just because they establish a little bit quicker and do a little bit better. The species, I'm not sure yet. I'd have to consult with the arborist and take a look at the species in the area. But yeah.
Okay, all right, very good. Uh, Members of the public, does anyone want to speak to this? I see Mr. Nolte has a hand up. John Nolte?
Good evening. Can you hear me?
I can, Mr. Nolte. Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Great. A couple of issues I see with this. One, again, this is the Geary corridor, and this is going uphill. A 15-gallon tree maybe is okay, but I would also, because of the high traffic and also location, because there be bus stops nearby, and people coming down this from the hospital and other in the immediate area. I would want tree protection around the new trees if they're planted because of the location, and also because we do have a problem with trees when they're planted, 15-gallon ones especially. If they don't have wiring around them or something to protect them for the first 3 years. I didn't hear anything about who's going to water for the next 3 years on these two trees. That was another issue I think is important to note. Is that going to be the property owner, or is this, or since it was initiated through a 311 call, who's going to water these two new trees if they're planted? Those are my questions for the night. Thank you.
Okay.
On this.
Thank you, Mr. Nolte. Anyone else with that would like to speak to this item? Okay. Seeing none, we'll close this item and thank you. Move on to the next.
Oh, John, sorry. I'll kind of speak on Mr. Nolte's questions, if that's okay.
Sure,
Just
absolutely.
like something really quick. Yeah, so the city will we will replace it and we will water it because we initiated the removal. And then also, yeah, I could request them to install, tree protection, like you kind of see in the Tenderloin, for those the two trees that are being planted in the area.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you for answering that question. All right. So the next item on the agenda is hearing order number 206-710 to consider the removal of one street tree without replacement adjacent to 14 Moss Street. Staff has approved the removal and the public has protested.
Brian with San Francisco Public Works, Bureau of Urban Forestry again. So this is at 14 Moss Street, Site 1. It's a permit application. It's a pine tree. It's about six feet high, about 4 feet wide. The condition, it's good. It's a healthy tree. It's the beginning stages. Someone planted it. Rogue planting happens on these streets all the time. It's just the wrong tree in the wrong place. And so basically the SF Parks Alliance had reached out to us. They're doing a whole revamp of Moss Street. And so basically they are installing a bunch of landscaping at various property owners. They've reached out to them, and there's maybe like a handful of property owners that are going to be installing landscaping in areas. And basically they came to us looking to replace or remove this tree because it is a pine tree, and basically in the future the pine tree is just not a species that the city wants to plant in the sidewalk, especially a narrow sidewalk. This is about a 6-foot sidewalk. So as the tree grows, it's going to destroy the sidewalk and then get extremely big and close to the building, and then maintenance for this tree will not be good. And so basically we approved the removal of the tree. I did reach out to the homeowner, letting them know that it wouldn't be replaced, and they still wanted the tree removed because it is the wrong species. And so basically the SF Park Alliance and SOMA West CBD will be installing landscaping along Moss Street as well. So here's another photo of the tree. It's kind of planted towards closer to the street side as well. So it's gonna start lifting this curb up a lot more. So just to be consistent with how we deal with similar cases, we have approved the removal of the tree because it is the wrong species in the wrong place, and because it's small enough, and it wasn't as big a tree that we could possibly handle. But yeah.
Okay, so do we have any of the plans for the Park Alliance or schedule for the work that they plan?
No, so I mean, you can go to San Francisco Parkalliance.org, and they have like what they're going to be doing on Moss Street. But they don't have the individual sites for landscaping, just because they reached out to those homeowners and they have applied for landscaping. So I doubt that would be on their plan. But if I could always, get a list of those addresses and the plans that they are for the landscaping,
Okay,
if you'd
okay.
like.
Yeah, I guess the only, my thought is that it should be a more complete package from them in the future.
Yeah, I know. They're mostly doing like murals and lighting along the street and like some streetscape improvements. And then they are doing a few other like landscaping, but I don't know how they presented it on their website, if it's like a full-on plan that they have, and each, there's a site plan at every single address to indicate how big the landscaping is. They kind of just had the homeowners reach out to me with the landscape permit.
Yeah, okay. Very, very good, thank you. Anyone like to speak with members of the public or the protester like to speak towards this? Mr. Nolte, you've got your hand up first. Go ahead. You're on mute.
Hi.
There you go.
Good
Go ahead,
evening.
Mr. Nolte.
Okay, great. Yeah, it took a little while for it to, anyway, so my question is, since it's not clear that, or at least from the presentation by Buff, that the location of the current tree is being replaced by landscape. And I don't believe that's what the code says, that a tree should be replaced by landscaping. I think even though this size of tree is not appropriate for this alleyway, I still would think that we could put a replacement tree at this location. And I think that, again, since the permit is being issued by Buff, because you have here on here a permit application, so therefore you have a discretion whether or not it goes into landscaping or it goes into a tree replacement tree at this location. I would prefer to see a tree in the location, and if they want to do the rest of the street, that's great with landscaping. But I think since the tree is already at this location, that a tree should be going in at the location, because it's a tree plot at the location, and per article for the tree ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nolte. Mr. Clip, I see your hand up.
Thanks. Can you hear me?
Sure can, Mr. Clip. Mr. Clip, your hand was down. Will you try again? You're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I would just second Mr. Nolte's question about replacement and whether replacement will be on that street, because based on the photos, it looks like there are other trees at that location. And obviously needs to be a tree, not just landscaping, because not only is the South of Market the least canopied neighborhood in the entire city, but that's also what the code requires. And based on the code, it also requires it to be in the closest available space. I thought it's a fair question to ask, what is the Park Alliance doing that requires removal? It seems a fair question to ask, what are the, what kind of instigated this, as opposed to just, you know, the Park Alliance asked the homeowner who asked us. And then I guess the final question I have is about transplantation, right? The Parks Alliance gets a lot of city dollars for its projects. So that means that effectively this is paid for by us. And so we're, you know, taxpayer initiated removal for a small healthy tree. Is there any reason why this tree couldn't be transplanted into, I don't know, a park? Since it is the Parks Alliance, and we are talking about, again, the least canopied neighborhood in the city. So those are my questions and my comments. Thanks.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Clip. Are there any other comments? Would anyone else like to speak to the issue? Seeing none, we'll close this item and we'll move on to the last item on the agenda. Order number 206-710. Yep, correction. Sorry about that. Strike that. Order number 206-711. To consider the removal of 3 street trees with replacement adjacent to 2800 3rd Street. Staff has approved the removal and the public has protested. Brian?
Brian Ong with San Francisco Urban SF Public Works, Rio Urban Forestry. So this is the plan for 2800 3rd Street. All the trees or circles is those are proposed trees, and those have been approved by the inspector, the spacing and everything. So those are all the trees that are going to be planted. The yellow is what is existing right now, and the red, 3 red circles is what is going to be removed. So you can see that there's no trees on Tennessee and there's no trees on 24th Street at the moment. So they're going to be planting 8 trees along 24th Street and 6 trees on Tennessee Street, and then 1 more tree on 3rd Street. And these 3 trees will be removed and not replaced. So you can see here's the numbering system, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trees. Tree 3, 5, and 7 will be removed due to a driveway or a garage curb cut. So here is tree number 3 on 3rd Street. It's a Brisbane box. It's about 15 to 30 feet high. It's about 20 feet wide. It is the good condition and good structure. There are no deficiencies. We did approve the tree because there is a driveway installation being placed, the curb cut at this position. There's no lean, the good trunk taper. There's no visual, no defects after a level 1 visual inspection. And this tree cannot be replaced in this spot. This is site number 5. Again, it's a Brisbane box. It's about 15 to 30 feet high, 15 feet wide. Again, this one is the same thing, good condition and good structure. There's no deficiencies. There will be a curb cut at this location for a driveway. And there will be no replacement in this exact same spot. This is tree site number 7. Again, a Brisbane box, 15 to 30 feet high, 15 feet wide. It's good condition and fair structure. There are 2 co-dominant stems at the main branch union. And there are no deficiencies other than that. Again, there will be a curb cut and a driveway being installed at this location, and the tree cannot be replaced in the same spot. The tree is in good condition with co-dominant structure. There's a slight lean into the roadway, but other than that, there's no other deficiencies. And then here is the arborist report, or the the appraisal sheet for each of the trees for tree 3, 5, and 7. So because those trees cannot be replaced, this is the appraised value of the tree. So tree number 3 was appraised at $2,800. Tree number 5 was appraised at $1,900, but because this is below our in lieu fee, basically the in lieu fee will be what is assessed. So it's $2,230 will be assessed instead of the $1,900. And then tree number 7 was appraised at $2,900. So basically there's 6 new trees planted on Tennessee Street, 8 new trees planted on 24th Street, and 1 new tree planted on 3rd Street. The 4 trees are to remain on 3rd Street. Tree protection will be installed around the existing trees for the duration of construction. And the 3 proposed trees for removal on 3rd Street, the appraised value or the standard in lieu fee, whichever is greater, will be assessed for the trees removal. So Bluff has reviewed the project plans to install 2 new curb cuts and 2 new driveways. The trees are in direct conflict with the new driveways. And Bluff has approved at the staff level and has received 2 protests for the removals. So to be consistent with how we deal with similar cases, Bluff has approved the removal of the 3 trees without replacement.
Great. So to summarize, it's a net 12 trees added, and then an appraised value or in lieu of fee for the 3 removed.
Yeah,
Is that my math?
I think so, yes.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Thank you. With that, we'll open up to public comment or to the protests. Let's see who. Melinda. I see your hand up.
Can you hear me?
I can. Melinda, did you want to? You don't have to. Did you want to give a last name or just Melinda?
Oh, sure. This is Melinda Sarjapur. It's Sarjapur. I'm with
J-R-J-J. Okay, go ahead.
I'm here tonight on behalf of the applicant, Madison Capital. We submitted a brief with some additional information and graphics, which I hope you received.
Yes.
I'm also joined on the line by our landscape architect, Eric Sarah.
Okay, thank you.
I think, thank you, Brian, for the background. The applicant is seeking to remove 3 street trees, which are necessary in connection with the new construction at 2800 3rd. However, the project would retain 5 other existing street trees and plant another 15. So it's net 15 addition, significantly improving the streetscape. Just for context, which you can see from the image, this site is roughly the north half of a city block with frontage along Tennessee, 24th, 3rd Streets. Right now, it's a fenced lot with 1-story commercial buildings and paved surface area. The existing environment is not pedestrian friendly. As Brian mentioned, the only frontage with a full paved sidewalk and existing street trees is 3rd Street. Most of Tennessee and 24th Streets have no sidewalk. There are no street trees along those frontages. Instead, they're occupied by curb cuts, on-site parking, and vehicle access to the fenced lot. The project's going to construct a 6-story building with a mix of lab and light manufacturing use. It will also install new sidewalks, lighting, and landscaping on all 3 frontages. While we understand the desire to protect the urban canopy, removing 3 trees along 3rd Street is necessary due to conflicts with the location of curb cuts and infrastructure serving the project. That can be seen on the tree dimension plan that we submitted, as well as this graphic. The applicant and our landscape architect have communicated with BOF and SFMTA to ensure we're planting the maximum number of trees given site conditions and requirements for tree spacing, existing tree locations, proximity to utilities, intersection visibility, and other factors. Since our original submittal, the project has also reduced the number and size of curb cuts to the minimum necessary to realistically serve the on-site lab and light manufacturing uses. So the project has been designed, as Brian mentioned, to retain 5 of the existing 8 trees along 3rd Street and to plant a net addition of 15 trees, resulting in 20 total street trees, which we think will be a vast improvement over the existing conditions. So for those reasons, we asked the director to grant the project's tree removal application, and we're available for any questions.
Great, thank you very much. Are there other speakers on this item? Mr. Nolte, I see your hand up. You're muted, Mr. Nolte.
I'm unmuted, right?
Yes, you're good now.
Okay, yeah, okay, great. It's great that you're developing the property, but basically, per planning code, you're supposed to plant trees every 20 feet. So I don't see really any net gain here. All I'm hearing is that you're adding a sidewalk around your property because you're building a 6-story building. So basically, this is a requirement to have your trees every 20 feet around a property. That's part of a planning code. It's got nothing to do with some other things that were stated here. So I think it should be clarify what governs what here, and also to remove trees for driveways to the street. That's all you're really stating is you're putting in three separate driveways, and I guess the yellow ones are the ones are staying. So the net gainers on Third, and according to this only diagram that's on the thing here, is on two sides of the property that are not apparently have no sidewalks. So that's improvement to the property and also helps the tenant and also the the value of the property being developed. Since you're taking down a 1-story building and putting a 6-story building as was presented at this hearing. So I don't see really a gain of any new trees because that's part of the planning code. It's got nothing to do about anything else that was stated here except for, again, coordinating with other departments. And I would like to know when DPW was brought into this about this project, not about when I asked for a permit, but how long has DPW and Brough been a part of this project? So to help understand how long they've known about this project. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Nolte. Mr. Clip, I see your hand is up.
Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So what I saw in this presentation were 3 trees that have no deficiencies, that are healthy, that are thriving, and that exist in a neighborhood that already has an incredibly low tree canopy and an incredibly high tree mortality rate. I'd like to do just a quick language check here. The trees aren't in conflict with the new driveways. The new driveways and curb cuts are in conflict with the existing trees. And I heard nothing about what consideration there was given for alternatives, alternate locations for curb cuts, driveways, or whatever other infrastructure was sort of vaguely referred to in the project sponsor's comment. And the project sponsor herself noted that there were 0 trees on 24th Street and 0 trees on Tennessee Street. It also looks like based on just looking at Google Street View, there was an existing driveway on 24th Street. So we've got 8 healthy trees that exist on this entire property, almost half of which the project sponsor wants to take out. And the tree planting requirements, as Mr. Nolte pointed out, those are not magnanimous, those are statutory. So it's not, a big win that we're getting trees. That's just what the law requires. Last week in the Chronicle, there was an article about how badly we are failing our urban forest plan, which in turn means we are failing our climate action plan and removing trees at a rate far exceeding our planting rate or even our planting capacity. So the fact that you have healthy, mature trees that are not going to require watering, that are not going to require tree maintenance the way that a young tree does, these are trees that we need to be doing everything that we can to save, not just say, well, we need a new driveway. I mean, we need a new driveway. So we're going to take out a tree. We're going to take out a tree and put in some impervious concrete surface is exactly the opposite of what we need to be doing in our city right now, especially when you've already got at least 2 frontages here that have nothing on them already. So I'm just getting too worked up. I'm going to stop now. I'm just going to say that this is the opposite of what we should be doing. And I heard nothing about alternatives that were considered here. And frankly, the amount of trees planted is just, is the bare minimum as what, to what the law requires. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Flip. Are there any other speakers? Okay, Brian, did you have anything else that you want to add or?
No, I'm okay.
Okay, so first of all, thank you very much for everyone that spent their time to speak tonight or to attend and listen in. It's important for people to be involved in the city's decision-making plans. I'll start drafting recommendations. If someone has anything else they'd like to submit, if you'd get that in the next couple of days, I'll try and include that in my recommendations to the interim director. And then it'll be up to Ms. Short to finalize the decision and get that out to people. So with that, I just want to thank you for your time. I want to thank Brian from Buff and Cerise from Urban Forestry for her work in the background there. Things don't happen without her. So with that, thank you and have a good evening.